At the close of business on Halloween night, it was all treat and no trick for the Arkansas Treasury. The import taxes that have damaged Arkansas business and farming, is that really relief in sight? The governor's not the only one to hope so, but he's coincidentally positioned to find out. And the time for contemplation is at an end, with only a couple of days remaining before the tickets close. We'll look at who wants in and who wants to stay in. Arkansas Week coming up.
Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and KUAR FM 89.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. Abroad again, in Asia again. Asa Hutchinson again, searching for new overseas capital, presumably also trying to salve the wounds. The governor's latest trade mission is on our agenda, along with the politics of 2020. It's our Reporters Roundtable. Michael Hibblen joins us. He's news director of KUAR Public Radio in Central Arkansas. Steve Brawner, independent journalist. Wesley Brown of Talk Business and Politics. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Wes, we'll start with you. The October haul. Once again, Arkansas sets a tax collection record.
Yeah, we had it for the month of September, the fourth month in the fiscal year that began July 1st. Arkansas really had just a healthy bounty of revenue collections in the month going into October across the board. There were some key areas that really saw some growth. Sales taxes were really good, and we're continuing to see corporate and personal income tax growth. And that, especially on the individual income tax, that means that payrolls are continuing to grow and jobs are being added. So as economist John Shelnut said, it was just healthy across the board. And it's been that way through the fiscal year. The first 4 months of the fiscal year, we're at about $2 billion in revenue collections, and the surplus is about at $72 million. And at that rate, and you still have the all-important Christmas season coming up in
retail.
October, November, December. You're going to have some healthy collections. It seems that consumers are still spending broadly, nationally, and in Arkansas. So if we get 3 more healthy months into October, November, and December, we could put that surplus in Arkansas around $200 million, which would be, you'll get those legislators looking at that and saying, wow, look what we have.
And as you noted, we're continuing to benefit from a quite low unemployment rate.
Yeah, our employment rate, it kind of edged up to 3.6. The national rate is both are at 3.6, level with the national rate. And the only problem with the workforce is that some employers are complaining they can't find people for key positions, and that's the only thing that's slowing the growth of the market down. And also, as the Federal Reserve, they lowered interest rates, so money is flowing out there. So the economy is doing well, despite there's some issues in trade. Still, the economy is doing well.
Well, about trade, our state chief executive is once again in Asia. I think he's due back this weekend, but he's doing China again, doing Japan again. Gentlemen, and looking for, not only looking for new investment capital, but I guess you could say he's reassuring the partners that we have.
Yeah, he said he has been talking with a lot of companies doing business with Arkansas, is looking to see what new business can be there. But he spoke with reporters yesterday via Skype and said he's just working to make sure that the state's in a good position if there are some loosening of trade restrictions. He says the state would be in a good position to jump in there.
Well, still pending, Wes, is that $2 billion project down in Clark County.
Yeah, down in Arkadelphia, Sun Paper, and also there's the Rui cotton gin in Forest
Delta,
City.
yeah.
Those 2 projects are still in the pipeline. The reason there's U.S. trade issues. U.S. and China are still talking on this phase 1 to try to remove the tariffs, and the people in Shandong province with Sun Paper said the deal is not the same deal that they made with Governor Hutchinson 3 years ago, because if you build that factory here, if they send those goods back to China, they would have to pay retaliatory tariffs on the goods that they send back. So that's kind of weird that they would have to pay, a Chinese company would have to pay retaliatory tariffs to go send their products back to China, which is a very interesting dynamic. So until that issue is till the Trump administration deals with that issue, I think that table is going to be off the table.
Well, we have had 2.5, 3 years now of high uncertainty regarding the trade and tariff situation. Thursday we got the news, or Friday morning anyway. Thursday we got the news. There may be a glimmer anyway of toward resolution.
Yeah, the Trump administration and Beijing continue to talk to move those talks along, and it's kind of one of those things: 3 steps forward, 1 step back. They talked, said they were going to get through the phase 1, and they came to some agreement. But then China came back and said, until you take those tariffs off the table, there won't be a deal, and that caused the market to kind of bounce back. So it's one of those things where it still may be a while before trade gets long. And the response that Governor Hutchinson said, the damage is not irreparable yet, but at some point you're going to have to say, especially in the farming community, the agri community, they're being hurt. Some farmers are going bankrupt because their markets are dead now. So it's going to be interesting to see when is the point where the damage is done and it can't be undone. So.
Some of that damage has been ameliorated in months past by direct federal payments, compensatory payments from Washington. That can't go on forever, though.
Right, yeah, you have, and some people are calling it just bailouts, that the farmers are getting payments, they're not producing crops, they're not sending their products to any market, but they're getting paid for that, and farmers themselves said, we don't want to do, this doesn't even feel right, we don't want to do business this way, we want to be able to do what we do, bring our products to market, sell them anywhere in the world, and compete with and have the best product out there. So it's the farming market. Manufacturing is also a sector that's been really hit hard because our manufacturing goes back and forth between countries, not just China and U.S., but other countries too.
Yeah, Steve.
And it has been hit. At the same time, manufacturing's actually been doing pretty well lately. Dr. Michael Packo, the state economic forecaster, spoke the other day to an engineering association and said that manufacturing employment in Arkansas has been growing faster than the rest of the economy in the last 18 to 20 months. And that follows a long period where the whole economy was moving towards service sector jobs. But really over the past 4 or 5 years, manufacturing has been doing pretty well. And over the past 18 to 20 months, better than the rest of the economy as far as job growth. And that's really significant because service sector jobs are focused on the most prosperous parts of the state, Northwest Arkansas and Central Arkansas and Jonesboro. Manufacturing jobs are dispersed around the state. So some of the harder hit areas, this actually helps them. So they've been doing better the past couple of years.
Yeah, and but there has been a slowdown even in that sector, in the manufacturing sector over the last few months. When you look year over year, the manufacturing jobs, as you noted, are
That's
well up.
too, is it not, Wes?
It's definitely. But we're starting to see a slowdown in all sectors, and the trade and anything that's tied to trade, you're starting to see a slowdown in the area. But consumers are still optimistic. You're just seeing the business climate is the one where people are saying, CEOs are saying, "Ooh, something's out there. We may need to slow down, not spend as much, and of course we don't know what's around the corner."
One more little bit on this. We still don't have a Western Hemisphere treaty. We don't have a NAFTA in place. Congress has not done that. There's the Pacific, and overseas Brexit is casting even more how's that going to shake out?
Yeah, and still, you've got in Congress, you've still got the Democrats in control, and they are not going to bring the USCMA. That's the new trade deal that's replacing NAFTA, a United States and Mexico Canada trade deal. That deal is not going to come to the table until the Republicans give up some measures that the Democrats like, so that it'd be palatable to them. And some of those deal with how much CEOs are being paid, and just transport between the three countries, Canada, United States, and Mexico. And the Democrats want some traditional measures, union related issues that they want in that deal. And until they get it, it's not going to be passed, and it'll sit on the table for a while.
And we got an election year next year, which we'll get to more of that
Yeah.
anyway. Anyway, there was it was still on the China trade, the Hutchinson trade mission. There is a second Hutchinson involved in Asian affairs or Chinese commerce. Uncomfortable for the incumbent governor?
Yeah, Michael, we looked at that video conference call yesterday, and that was kind of the last question posed at the end of that conference call, and he was kind of uncomfortable with that question. He pointed out the fact that not only was his son was one made the trip, but he paid for his trip. There were also some Sunpaper officials that went over there, other business people that went and paid their way. But it's still the way it looks, and having his son's name out there on that trade mission, I think it caught him off guard a little bit.
Michael, I won't say this is a Hunter Biden sort of thing, but I mean it involves family and contracts and overseas business.
Yeah, but the governor insists this was all separate work done for the governor's son's law firm. Wasn't done on taxpayer money, so he insists nothing wrong there. But these were some companies, I believe, that got some state incentives in the business, so a little bit of a connection.
Yeah.
Busy week at the Arkansas State Capitol in the Rotunda. Sign the papers, bring your papers, make sure they're all done right, and bring a check. Michael?
Yeah, campaign filing season got underway Monday, runs through Tuesday of next week. We've seen all four of our representatives in the U.S. House file to run for re-election, Senator Tom Cotton. And it's been busy there. You've seen a lot more Republican activity there. The last numbers I saw, I think Republicans, about twice as many compared to Democrats, had filed for seats in the State House and Senate. And today we're expecting, by the time this broadcasts, President Trump to have filed to run for re-election in Arkansas. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, his former press aide, is going to do the filing there, along with Attorney General Leslie Rutledge.
Steve?
Well, it's been a kind of a rough few years for the Democrats, and especially this year in Congress, they've had trouble finding candidates. No one in the first. They say that they're going to have somebody to file in the second against French Hill, which would seem to be the area that they would be most likely. That would be the district that they would have the best chance of winning. Hill only won about 52% of the vote in 2018, but they've been struggling to find a candidate there. But they say they found one. They do have a Senate opponent, Josh Mahoney, and then in the legislature, the legislature is about 3/4 Republican, and that is probably where it's going to stay. Democrats say they've got about the same number of candidates as they did last time. Last time they had 57 in the House. But there's just not going to be a lot of movement either way. There are a couple of vulnerable Democratic state senators who represent areas of the state that have been really trending Republican and really trending Trump. So there's going to be some areas that, you could see one or two seats shift that way. Democrats might pick up one or two at most in the House, but we've probably kind of reached a state of equilibrium where 3/4 of the legislature is Republican.
Well, in 2018, it was a wash. Democrats picked up a couple, well, at least in the House, picked up a couple of seats. They lost a couple, too.
Yeah, including the chairman of the Democratic Party. And the issue is that, as you said, it's going to be a wash, and the Republicans now are the ones with the deep bench. They have candidates filing, the competition, even when we look at good races, it's usually in the primaries, not in the general election. So the Republicans have a deep bench, and I don't, as Steve said, I don't see much changing in this election, and it'll be the only interesting thing that I've seen from the filing period is who will run against French Hill. I mean, that question is out there. We'll see, and if it is a viable candidate that we're able to give him a good race.
Well, consider what Steve just said. The party apparatus, such as it is trying to find a candidate.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing that's so difficult is that we don't really change a lot of minds anymore in our elections. Mm-hmm. Seats shift when the demographics of the district shift. Mm-hmm. People have to die or move in or be born and 18 years later vote. And Arkansas just doesn't have that many districts that shift that much in our demographics. And so you saw the Democrats pick up a couple of seats in the House last time, and that would be probably attributable to the fact of the changing makeup of those Northwest Arkansas districts.
Right.
But not that much has changed in 2 years. And so probably for the time being, it's where it is it's going to be. Now, Doyle Webb, the state party chairman, has said in the past that Arkansas is now the reddest state in the union. And there's some evidence to back that up. You saw that this past week, Kentucky elected a Democratic governor after having that candidate's father be governor for 8 years. Mississippi has a Democratic attorney general who was competitive in a race for governor. Texas to our southwest is turning slowly purple. So other states have some Democratic representation. Arkansas, boy, it is a red state right now.
Well, the Kentucky thing may have been an anomaly, though. Mm-hmm. No, putting too much into that, the governor was an absolutely wretched candidate.
Yeah,
you find an interest group and he'd alienate.
That's true, but 8 years ago, but the winner's dad was governor for 8 years as a Democrat, and that was as late as 2015.
Well, it wasn't, but still in Kentucky, it wasn't an overwhelming margin, and you look down ballot, and it was still red all
the South is still red, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The South is red, but Arkansas is redder.
Yeah. We'll I mean, arguing who is redder, I mean, for a candidate for a president, I mean, they're going to be looking at those individual races, and the bottom line is that Arkansas is not going to gain anything in the Democratic in terms of being a blue state. We won't see what we saw in some of those other states in Kentucky, but the thing is that Trump is going to do well in the South. That's the bottom line.
Well, yeah, which is the reddest southern state is almost a distinction without a difference. If you're a Democratic presidential nominee, you stop at the airport, maybe say hello, pick up the check, and leave.
Exactly.
Go someplace where you might make a difference. And it's interesting, as you guys noted, the primary action is on the Republican side in terms of legislative primaries.
Yeah. And we may not see that change. It'll be interesting with the impeachment proceedings how that impacts those down ballot. But if nothing happens, if Trump is on the ballot, then we're going to still see that same trend happen because the candidates who are running on Trump, using Trump language, using Trump's message. So that's the strength of the Republican Party right now.
Chairman Webb of the state GOP has an interest in one race anyway. And that's guys.
His wife, running for the Supreme Court of Arkansas to file today.
And that sets the stage for what's probably going to be a very, very bruising judicial contest.
Barbara Webb.
They have become bruising typically.
Mm-hmm. And Barbara Webb is a former prosecuting attorney, so she is accustomed to being in the fight. And she faces Judge Chip Welch, who's got the advantage of having the word judge in front of his name, which matters quite a bit in elections. But Barbara Webb is the wife of, that is very connected to the Republican Party of Arkansas, and not just because of her husband. She's been a longtime Republican, so that will be interesting to see how that race comes about. Not just in what happens between those two, but what happens between outside forces that will certainly be pouring money into that race, and will probably have both of their characters thoroughly assassinated by the time it's done. Not really necessarily even by their desire for that to happen, but that's what's, that those dark money groups that we don't know who they are, who is donating to them will certainly be coming out in force in that race and in other races.
Yeah, and that money, I will say about the candidate she running, Chip Welch, has broad support from both parties. He's been a judge for a while, but he was a attorney in very prominent cases in the state of Arkansas. So it'll be a good race. And like you said, there will be money poured into that race, but it will. It may be the most exciting thing on the ballot in the upcoming election. So.
Okay, on to a matter of really statewide importance, although it has the local veneer. Michael, and that's the Little Rock School District.
Yeah, teachers now without a contract. There was no immediate strike, but this is a real hot button issue, obviously, for people in Little Rock, and you've got the state not recognizing the teachers union, the state which obviously has been running the Little Rock School District now for 4 years. The head of the union saying that a work stoppage is still not out of the question, could happen, but we did have a bit of a show of support Wednesday for teachers when you had a walk-in, as it was called, at a lot of the schools in the district. Hundreds of parents walking in with their kids and teachers in a show of support. We'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, the posture thus far has been, or the perception thus far, reality, I suppose, is that virtually all of the cards are held by the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and,
the Hutchinson
and over the last 4 years, and the only thing that is happening, but you do see a marshaling in the community where of people getting behind the teachers, getting behind and saying, there's still this feeling that something is going to happen, maybe a strike, maybe a work stoppage, and you give it that feeling that's going, and that would throw this whole district into chaos. It would be a situation that, if once you strike, the question becomes how long. I mean, you saw what happens in other cities, Chicago and other areas, when that strike starts, then you bring other questions in, and are the students, who cares about the students? That becomes the debate, and so. And there's still these rumors and speculation that there's going to be a strike, but so far we haven't had that. But that whole it puts a kind of a dark cloud over the even bigger, darker cloud over the school district, Michael.
Yeah, but the insistence of return to local control is what's, and there's the talk that we'll have elections next year, and then perhaps, but. It's still, there's so much uncertain and there's so much suspicion at this point.
Well, and part of that suspicion stems from the documents that have been released, the plans that have been drafted anyway by the state, or imposed by the state education department. What if you do have local elections? Mm-hmm. If somebody doesn't like the way the district is run or whatever, they could just appeal to the state.
Yeah, and
as it stands now.
The question is, will it go back to the way it was? Will you get the same? When you have, there was, we go back 4 years before, there was bickering among the school board. There was, and then if there are elections, then what are these interests that are going to be going behind these candidates that are running? You have union candidates, and then you have the so-called Walmart candidates, the money coming in from big interests. So, it's funny, we've seen how Steve talked about the PAC money in the judicial races, and we've seen legislative races that are now getting over $1 million. Will we see that influence down into these local school board races where you got where these candidates are being backed by big money or big interest? So, and that would really change the dynamic of what's going on in Little Rock, and I think it would be unfortunate for the kids too.
We have all parties involved saying that they have each maintains that it has the best interest of the children at heart. As Wes noted, there was broad dissatisfaction in the community before the state takeover. Mm-hmm. Now there is at least significant dissatisfaction with state administration. Mm-hmm. So where does this go? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's the question out there. Is you know you go to the grocery store, you go my church, you go. These discussions are taking place in the barbershops, wherever you go, because I think this community understands, even in the mayor's office, that is the discussion, that the school district, if we don't have if the state's biggest city doesn't have a vibrant school district, then I mean, all those other issues that we discuss on this show are seem pale in comparison.
Yeah, got to end it there because we're out of time. Gentlemen, thanks to you for coming in. As always, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Support for Arkansas Week provided by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the Arkansas Times, and KUAR FM 89.